So hello, welcome back to Go Again Gaming. My name is Az, and today we're going to be going through all of the Aim Counter cards and just revisiting everything because I spoiled the Judge, Jury, and Executioner card, which you can see here, over the not last weekend, the weekend before. And it's been met with a lot of people saying, oh, this is hype, this is awesome, the card looks great, and the art looks great, and all this, and that's definitely the case. But a lot of people have been saying that it's not really playable because of the aim counter thing, right? And the fact that it's a legendary and all this, but we can get into that as time goes on today. But thanks for joining us. Before we go into all of that stuff, please make sure you head over to goagaingaming.com. You can join the Discord community there if you're interested. Goagaingaming.com. You can join the Discord community and just check it out. Obviously, Living Legends podcast is also on there. You got a little feed where you can access the Living Legends podcast if you want. And also check out the new merch. We've got the Azalea altar here, the Azalea Ace in the Hole altar, which is done by Tobias from the Sigilet Games. And yeah, I think it's absolutely awesome. This image doesn't really do it too much justice because obviously it was taken on my phone because I wanted to take a picture of the physical product. But yeah, definitely go and check it out if you want to help support this channel and the Azalea cult and all that good stuff. And what you can also do as well, if you wanted to help support me, is go to Patreon as well, which is there. So you can support us directly there. And you get given some cool things along the way if you do so, like these aim counters and all that sort of good stuff. But anyway, enough of the shilling. Let's get on to the aim counter stuff. So let me just read out this card. This is the one I spoiled. Judge, Jury, and Executioner. So it's a 1-cost, 5 attack, ranger action, arrow attack, blocks for 3. And it's a red pitch. It's a legendary Azalea specialization, so you can only have one in your entire deck. You can't register any more than that because it's a legendary card. And it says, if this has an aim counter, it gets, when this hits, they discard all but one card from their hand. So a very, very good card. Basically, it is similar to Red in the Ledger in the fact that they'll only be able to do one action most of the time after this hits. But you're also hemorrhaging those cards from their hand. So those cards that they haven't blocked with that are being discarded are going straight to the graveyards. They can't even save those cards, like a mini sort of seek and destroy effect on here as well. But the fact that you're discarding the cards, a lot of people have also compared it to sort of Tear Asunder and Crippling Crush from Bravo and all this as well. But this needs a lot of setup because of the aim counter. Now, a lot of people have been saying, oh, the aim counter is too much of a hoop to jump through. And in Death Dealer builds, it is hard to get those aim counters on things. I mean, how many times have you activated a Deadeye off of a knock, or a Deadeye off of a dominated arrow that comes in via Azalea's ability, and you activate Crow's Nest to put an aim counter on it, and then still fire it? There is a heavy cost to getting aim counters on things in Death Dealer builds, but that is why Sandscour Greatbow exists, right? Sandscar Greatbow is a card that will, if you bring things in off the top of the deck into the arsenal, will put aim counters on those things automatically, so you don't have to worry about paying the extra with Crow's Nest, etc. But Crow's Nest is still a way of getting aim counters on things that aren't Sandscour Greatbow from the top of the deck, of course. But obviously it does cost a lot, and that's what Azalea decks probably don't want to be trying to do at the moment, is trying to pay more for things. You know, as we've seen with the recent results from the Realm, Brody's list was very, very trimmed down. There wasn't many blues in there at all. It was a lot of reds and a lot of yellows, a lot of zero cost stuff. So maybe that is the route we want to be going down going forward. But today's discussion is all about the aim counters and how you could potentially get aim counters on things, and just revisiting the cards that do put aim counters on things, because there is still a lot of interactions and stuff that will put aim counters on things that you might not necessarily have knowledge on, because it's been a while since we've had a look. But let's go down to Fabrari, fantastic site, and have a look at the cards that will do this for us. So bear with me one sec. So if you just type in aim counter on here, it comes up with a load of different things which care about aim counters being put on stuff. But what we ultimately want to do on this video is find out the ways that we can get aim counters on Judge, Jury, and Executioner, because that's obviously the new card. That's the new hotness, right? None of these will do it, of course. Point the Tip is one that I've pointed out on a few occasions, and this was actually one of my favourite cards from Dynasty when it was released. And the point I made was that Point the Tip allows you to put aim counters on things not from the top of the deck in other builds other than Sandscour. Now, it's a bit janky because if this card is on top of your deck and you want to activate Azalea's ability to bring the buff in from the top of the deck, and you then play this out of your arsenal, there's no arrows in your arsenal to be able to do that. So it is a dead buff on the top of the deck if you do want to access that via Azalea. That much is understood for sure. That is a downside, because a lot of the times with Azalea decks, you can access that top card of your deck via Azalea's ability and then play it. So if you see like a Seek and Destroy or a Lace With on top of your deck and you've got something else in your arsenal, you can get that, you can access it. But with Point the Tip, if it's on top of your deck, it is a dead card because you can't actually play it from your arsenal, because you need to play it from your hand, because a face-up arrow needs to be in the arsenal in order to get the aim counter on it. But still, you know, if you're playing a non-Sandscour list, or even if you are playing a Sandscour list and you don't want to bring in an arrow off the top to get the aim counter for free, Point the Tip is a 0-cost buff which gives something +3. It has to be face up in your arsenal already, but you put an aim counter on it, period. You don't have to worry about jumping through any hoops with regards to bringing it in off the top of your deck via Sandscour, or bringing it in off the top of your deck and then paying the extra for Crow's Nest to put a counter on it. You just simply buff your arrow that's face up already and put an aim counter on it. So that could be something to explore. Now, I understand the downsides of this card, but it could be something worth exploring if you do want to try and, you know, squeeze as much value as you can out of your aim counter cards. Now, there are also a lot of other aim counter cards which are pretty good with regards to the rates and the on hits that they provide, but obviously it's just getting those aim counters on consistently. So Point the Tip might be one of those things that can sort of give you that consistency with putting aim counters on things, but you have to potentially make the sacrifice of not being able to buff from the top of your deck, which you can normally do quite consistently in the current builds that are out there. But Point the Tip is one that you could potentially look at. So another thing that you could potentially look at is these cards here, Blessing of Focus. They are 3-block auras that cost 1, and they crack at the start of your turn, and you destroy it, and then you opt 3, and then you can put the top card of your deck into your arsenal from your deck with an aim counter on it. But again, I'm not sure whether this is going to see much play, to be honest, and I just wanted to point this out. But it's another thing that you can do to get aim counters on things, but it's a pseudo. You know, if you're running Sandscour, you know, you're going to get the aim counter anyway. Whether, you know, if you put this into your deck from the top, you're going to put it. You're going to get that aim counter on it anyway. So there's not really much point in looking at Blessing of Focus, because the bow, which gives you I'm getting a phone call. It's supposed to be working right now. I am on my break, I'll have you know. Yeah, I don't think Blessing of Focus is one of those things where you can get the card, you can opt for the card, you can search for it, and then put it straight in with an aim counter on it if you want to in other sort of non-Sandscour lists. And another thing you can do as well, if you're running the Sandscour Greatbow, let me just have a look at Sandscour Greatbow quickly. Whenever an arrow is put face up in arsenal from your deck, you get an aim counter on it. There is another thing that will actually allow you to do this, and it's called Silver the Tip. And again, it's not one of those cards that you probably will ever play. But again, if you're looking at aim counters, you want to try and squeeze as much value as you can out of aim counters. This is another thing which can potentially do it if you are running Sandscour as your main bow in the deck. So this is a 1-cost 2-block. Comes in all pitch values, and obviously it says if you have no cards in your arsenal, look at the top 4, 3, or 2 cards of your deck, depending on the pitch that you're playing. You may put an arrow card from among them face up into your arsenal, then put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So if you combo that with the Sandscour Greatbow effect, because obviously the arrow is coming in off of Silver the Tip from the top of your deck, or from your deck, the Sandscour Greatbow will allow you to put aim counters on that without paying for it, basically. So Sandscour Greatbow is great for putting aim counters on things from just the top card of your deck. But if you could access more cards, like Silver the Tip or like Blessing of Focus comes into play, you know, searches the top of your deck more, you might be able to sort of get more aim counter activations off of that, rather than trying to put it through and filter it through just the one singular card from the top of your deck with Sandscour Greatbow. I'm getting another call. Go away. but yeah, so it's going to be quite difficult to try and get the max value out of the Judge, Jury, Executioner card, which is a shame because I think it's absolutely awesome. And it was a great spoiler card to receive. A lot of work has been put into the Azalea cult over the last year and a half or so, and me and Jim really liked Azalea because of the fact she was just a fantastic ranger class that hadn't really been covered a lot. You know, we just loved we loved the character, we loved the class, we loved the fact that she's in the pits and she's a contract killer and all this, and we loved her aesthetic, we loved her look and all this, and that's the reason why we covered the character, why we set up the Azalea cult. She was an underdog. She wasn't getting much play. Not really many people appreciated her because obviously she wasn't competitively viable. But there was a contingent out there that wanted to play with Azalea and liked everything that she was about, even when she was garbage. So to receive a legendary Azalea specialization was really a wholesome moment for going and gaming. But yeah, obviously this card has been met with a bit of controversy with regards to the aim counter stuff, because it is quite hard to get aim counters on there. Another thing you can abuse, and one thing to note is that Codex of Frailty, probably the strongest card in Ranger decks and Assassin decks, to be honest, is the fact that you cannot abuse the Judge, Jury, and Executioner with Codex, because obviously if you put something into your arsenal with Codex, it's face down, and you're not going to be able to get the aim counter on it unless you flip up that card with cross-wrap and then play something like the aforementioned Point the Tip to get an aim counter on it, and that is a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to get that sort of thing. So you can't recur Judge, Jury, and Executioner using Codex. That's one thing to note. But what you can do is you can use a card called Memorial Ground, and I think this is one of the ones, one of the cards did appear in Brody's list recently. It's one of those ways that you can recur the most valuable arrow in the matchup that you are playing, but also Memorial Ground says put target attack action card with cost 1 or less, this is the yellow version, from your graveyard on top of your deck. And what does that mean? That means Azalea can bring it in with Dominate with her effect. That is how that works. Because obviously you just activate Azalea, goes into the arsenal with Dominate. If you're running Sandscour Greatbow, you then put the aim counter on the card that you've recurred. So if you're recurring Judge, Jury, and Executioner, you'll automatically get that aim counter on there. But if you don't, you'll use the Crow's Nest to put an aim counter on it for an extra resource. But that loop is going to be quite hard, and it's going to be quite expensive to get off, because you're going to have to use the Memorial Ground to get the Judge, Jury, and Executioner back on top of your deck. Then you're going to have to activate Azalea's ability to get it into the arsenal with Dominate. And then if you're not running Sandscour Greatbow, you're going to have to pay an extra 1 to put the aim counter on it, and then fire it off after you've done all of those things. So there are a lot of hoops to jump through, but if you're running Sandscour, things like Not a Death Whistle can just bring it into the arsenal with a name counter on it for free. And as I said, Memorial Ground as well, if you're running it in Sandscour, can just bring it into the arsenal with an activation of Azalea with a name counter on it automatically. But I don't think it's one of those cards that you do want to try to recycle. I think it's just one of those cards that once you're in the sort of mid to late game, you want to try and get this off as much as you can. Go away. I need to put myself in Do Not Disturb. But yeah, it's one of those cards that I don't think you do want to try and recur, because trying to recur this is a lot of work and effort to go into it to try and recur it. But again, I think one of the main things that you can try and do to smooth over all of your cards that care about aim counters is to run the Point the Tip cards. I think that's probably one of the best things you can look at doing to try and squeeze as much aim counter value from your cards and from your hands that you get, because trying to filter everything through the top of the deck is all the percentages go down, right, as to how much you can do with that. So if you're running more of an engine with Point the Tip, which will put counters on your cards while they're face up in the arsenal, you can squeeze a lot more value out of all of the aim counter cards, I feel. But that's just me. I have zero credibility with Azalea, of course. I just love the hero. I'm just trying to explore every avenue possible with this new card and how much we can really squeeze out of the aim counters, because there are a fair few other cards which are good with aim counters on them, like Barbed Undertow, for instance. If that's got an aim counter, it gains when this hits, choose red, yellow, or blue, and they can't pitch cards of the chosen colour if it hits. We've got Immobilizing Shot, which is basically a zero-cost red in the ledger type effect. So if this has an aim counter, when it hits, they can't play more than one attack action card and one non-attack action card during their action phase. So again, that is another good card as well. That is a pseudo red in the ledger type effect, which can really shut things down. So if you can really, and Deadeye of course, if you can get consistent aim counter arrows on things with Deadeye without having to access the top card of the deck to get it on there through Crow's Nest or Sandscour, this also becomes very, very good. So it's just one of those things that we need to try and figure out. Whether it can be figured out, I don't know. I'm not sure whether there is enough sort of aim counter support to be able to pull off aim counter shenanigans consistently. Sandscour does smooth it over, but again, you are working through the top of your deck when you're trying to access those aim counters that way, and that can be a very low percentage point sometimes, right? So yeah, just wanted to revisit the aim counters, and again, there's a lot of cool things with aim counters like these. Fletch the Red Tail. Your next arrow gets +4. If it has an aim counter, red cards can have -1 mod defending this. These are quite cool as well. But again, they don't see much play because the aim counters are hard to get on things, when you're going through the top of your deck. But that is just a load of random thoughts for today. Let me know what you think about aim counters and what you think about the new card, Judge, Jury, and Executioner, which I had the pleasure of spoiling. If you haven't watched the preview video, then please go and watch it. It was a hilarious one that we did. And if you're looking for ways, well, you probably won't be looking for ways, but if you want to help support the channel and support Go Again Gaming, what you can do is you can go over to goagaingaming.com. You can join the Go Again Gaming community. You can listen to the Living Legends podcast. You can go on to merch and affiliates. You can get yourself a nice Azalea Cult altar here, which helps support the channel directly. Or you can help us on Patreon and get a load of cool things as and when we get them, and I'll send those out to you willy-nilly as such. But that's pretty much it for today. Random thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below as to what you feel about aim counters, what you feel about Judge, Jury, Executioner, and what you feel about Azalea in general. A lot of the optics are on Azalea again at the moment because of Brody winning the Realm Brawl event with a Death Dealer red and yellow heavy list. So will aim counters really see the light of day? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you next time. Cheers.